Hi everyone, my name is Duncan Dimanche and I'm here with Cris Photography. We're going to talk about gears and gears and gears and gears. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about everything that he used, everything that I use. We're going to compare it. And this should be a fun video. I met Cris online and we decided to do a team up together. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully it won't be 2 hours long.
All right, so the first thing we want to talk about here is the filters. So ND filters, polarizing filters, and so on. So go ahead, I'll let you start.
Well, I started like everyone else with an ND filters. I think this is the first purchase that anyone should buy after buying a camera and a lens. Those are the cheap ones, and those are great because they're light. But recently I was approached by HNY and they sent me the Revo ring. And this is a pretty cool and badass product. It's pretty much an ND filter, but you can adapt it to different sizes of filter threads, which is really, really dope. I use it pretty much for every shoot. I don't recommend it for outdoors, but anything for interviews, I love it. Those are pretty much the ND filters that I use, and I also use the Tiffin Black Pro Mist. You know, it gives you a more cinematic look by breaking the highlights, by blooming a bit the highlights, and also getting the skin not as shiny. I could actually show you with and without the filter if you want to, because I have one right here on it. If you can look at the back, this is the 10%, so this is the least amount of strength. They have the 20% as well. So this is what it looks like without. And if you look at the back, the neon that I have. So voila, those are my filters.
Nice, cool. So that's the filters you use. I am not as modern on my filters and as advanced, I would say. I use some very basic variable ND filters. I mainly go for VND rather than polarizing, depending on what I do. Obviously, if I shoot video, I would go for an ND filter. I think it's a German brand, very basic and simple filters. I will be receiving a kit from Nisi. It's the V6 Advanced kit, which has a lot of different filters to do all sorts of, it's mainly geared towards photography rather than video. So I will be doing a video to review that very soon. But for now, this is pretty much, I think you win the hand on this one because those filters that you showed are really cool. So go check it out. We're gonna go into the next subject, which is the straps. What straps do we use for photo? Mainly photo, because video, I believe you use a gimbal, like I do. But for photography, what straps do you use?
For photography, I use the Peak Design. It's a very, it is pretty expensive for a strap, a simple strap, but I love the fact that you can clip it on for photography, and whenever I'm using it on a tripod, I can just clip it out. I can show it to you right now on Sony that I have here. Super easy. And you can also change the length of it very easily. It's just very well made, like everything Peak Design makes. I really like their products. I have a DIY also leather strap when I'm doing weddings, when I'm taking photos of weddings. And it's pretty cool, but it's a DIY and not as sophisticated as I think the ones you have.
Yeah, so so it's good you bring up Peak Design because I personally use the Leash, which is the same color as yours, but it's the thinner version, more for some light street photography. I have this one, which is the Cuff, I think it's called. Same thing, you put it here, same deal. It's good for if you go around with a Leica camera or some small Fuji camera, because I'm a Leica Fuji person. Or I have the one you have, which is thicker, and this is more for like bigger DSLR cameras like you use. I realized I don't use those cameras, I use smaller bodies for my Fuji cameras, so I stopped using this quite fast, also because I'm mainly a wedding photography person. So the strap that I use, you mentioned the leather strap. I use this guy here, which is made by a company called Desired Leather. These are crazy good straps. I made a lot of videos, you can check all over my channel, but they so far so good. I'm satisfied, very sturdy, very comfortable. They will not let you down anytime soon. So if you want to check them out, I'm obviously going to put all the links, what Duncan mentioned so far, what I'm going to mention, everything's going to be in the description below. And that's for the straps. There you go.
And you can also personalize it. Come on.
Yes, let's not forget that. So you can put your logo on the back. You can. Yeah, so you can put the logo on the back, indeed. Here I put the Lux Precision, which is my company, but I have other straps, which I'm going to show you right now. I have a bunch of these. You can see that I put my logo, Cris Photography, on these too. You have, I think, 8 different colors you can choose from. Sizes you have for single camera, dual camera, all sorts of everything. And actually this is the best straps I found for a price, which if you use the code CRIS8 you can get with 8% discount. It's always good to have.
And how much are they about? You think it's only 130 or so?
You can get them for around 130 bucks for the bigger size, and otherwise it's from 100 to 120 for the smaller ones that I showed you.
And you said that the engraving was free also, which is
the engraving of your logo is included in the price. So so yeah, if you have a logo and you want to have it on the back, it looks dope and badass. Okay, great. So I think we're good with the straps, and now we will tackle the next subject, which is a crucial one: the bags. What bags do we use to carry our gear? So you were telling me about a special bag that you found, which is really cool, and I want to hear all about it.
This is the bag, and what's really cool about it is it's not really waterproof, but I think the material is pretty water resistant because it's plastic, so I don't think it's going to go through any here. But we all know that, you know, the water gets into the zippers mostly. So, but I like it a lot because first of all, you have the top compartment. You can add so much in this. Sorry for this. I hate that it's Velcro. It's such an
Can you change the Velcro strength? Is there anything to make it less like sealable?
I've been in a position so many times where it's late at night, I need to open my bag, I'm with people sleeping, and I just cannot open it because the Velcro is just very noisy. I like how Peak Design, you know, did their stuff. But anyway, you can put a lot of stuff in it, and you can have it with you with your carry-on. So that's the mini one that I have. And this is my second bag. I don't know if you can see it fully, but it actually opens up.
It's like a suitcase.
Yeah, it is, but it fits also. That's a cool thing. Those two bags can actually be taken with as you carry on. I can fit a lot in those bags. So what about your bags?
Good. So I see that you're pretty set for traveling. I guess you're a big traveler. Personally, I use a Peak Design bag. This is a Messenger 13-inch. I do not like this bag. I'm gonna be upfront with you. I used it a lot. It's okay. It has some cool systems. Like, it's great. The fact that you have the green and the red compartments inside to show which batteries are charged or not. The fact that you have this origami, you know, dividers. You know, the fact that you can open and close the strap of the bag the same way that you do with, you know, the leash and the other straps. This is all great. Even the way you open it with the, you know, the little clamp, it's great. Does not work for me though. One of the things is when you put it like this, if there's something inside, it will tilt and it will fall. This is extremely annoying. You have no idea how annoying this is because sometimes you just want to put it down and you have to find a wall. Now, the bag that I do like a lot for street photography and for weddings is Retrospective 7 by Think Tank. This bag is, makes a lot of noise. However, you have the silencers here, which you can remove, and you can put it on top, which makes the Velcro just not, basically it doesn't do anything. When you're in the church,
it's not as strong, or it's just silence it totally.
Well, you can basically choose how much Velcro you want and how secure you want your bag to be when you close it. The cool thing is when you're in the church for a wedding, for example, you don't want to have the whole. The quality of the bag itself is great. The shoulder pad here is very thick. This bag has been on my shoulders for now 6 years. It did not move, so there you go.
I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you spend all day with your camera bag on just one shoulder, because yeah, I guess I just have weak shoulders. But
messenger bags are, I think they're very practical. When I do a wedding though, I have the dual camera straps, leather on here. So my bags stay in the car most of the day. If I have to swap the batteries, I just go swap them. We're good to go. Let's tackle a big subject. We're going to talk about lenses. For those that are on my channel that have subscribed to this channel, I guess you know by now that I'm a big fan of Fujifilm. So I like to use the following lenses. I'm not big on lenses. I use only a bunch. I spoke about these extensively in other videos. So there's the 23mm f2. They also have a f1.4 version, which is more expensive, has more glass, it's slower for the autofocus, but the quality of it and the bokeh is just sexy. Then I have a 56mm f1.2. I really like this lens for weddings. And finally, I have the 10 to 24mm f4. This is great when I do real estate, or when I do sometimes for weddings, when I want to see a little bit of a wide distorted type of photo of all the guests, and you know, when they let the balloons go in the sky or things like that. I use this type of lens. This is very versatile. These three lenses, in my opinion, are a keeper for photography. There you go. Over to you.
so my main lenses, I went full on Tamron because I got Sony cameras, and so I've got the 28 to 75 f2.8, the 17 to 28 f2.8 Tamron, 70 to 180 2.8 Tamron, the Sony 85mm f1.8 for my interviews. Yeah, when I'm doing interviews and such. I also have the 55mm, I don't have it here. What I love with this setup is they all have the same 67mm filter thread, which means that I can only get one ND filter and fit it on all of them, which is really dope. And yeah, they're all great. Those are my lenses.
Okay.
Love them. Works well. Autofocus is fantastic in photo and video, which is very important for me because I do both. So this is the main lens that I use all the time.
That's for Safari work.
That's for Safari. I actually used it 3 days ago on a Safari.
Okay, good. So that's for the lens department. And now we're going to be talking about a broad subject, very broad, which we will try to keep short and to the point. We're going to talk about the lights. Lights that we use on the go and lights that we use as more of a stable setup, for example, for YouTube. And what do we use to go out and shoot some run and gun type of videos. So what type of lights do you use?
For travel, I always bring my flex panel. It's I think it's 60 by 30 centimeters, and it's what I'm using right now just to light myself. I bought those two in the bag. They're $10. They're just those, I think they're called T5 neons. They really cost $10 each. I like having them in the back. It looks pretty cool. And I also bring those handheld lightsabers, they call them. This is, I can't even tell you the brand because it's I bought it from AliExpress. It's terrible quality, but I think I paid $100 for it. For my main work, for many years, I use the flex panels. They're the Falcon Eyes. I think it's the RX24, and it's a 60 by 60 centimeters. And recently I bought the same version, but the Godox, because they're so cheap. It's 30 by 130 centimeters, which is actually great for framing when you have two people for interviews, when you have two people at the same time. And it gives a nice catch light also in the eyes. And I also have the big Godox 150 Mark II. Great power, comes with a remote, and you know, you can model it more. Those are my main lights, and I've got a bunch of neons also, 3 or 4 neons, RGBs, if I need to set, you know, some different light setup.
Okay.
Voila.
Okay. Nice. That's quite a cool setup for both run and gun and in studio. Well, that's a similar setup in terms of what type and size of lights. I do not use light panels. That's something actually I'm going to look into because I've been interested to buy some for a while now. So what I use in my studio for my YouTube videos is an aperture 120D Mark II and a light dome Mark II as well, the big one. Those are great. I use the Aperture AL-F7, which is the one that's right behind me here as a backlight when I'm shooting my videos in studio. And otherwise I have a bunch of lights that are floating around, such as the Falcon Eyes F7 Mini and another little light that I got from Sandmark, a company in the US. Those are my main lights that I use. The aperture light can be brought around with the case, which is down here. And otherwise, that's my main setup for lighting. There you go. All right, so next topic coming up is macro photography. I think you, Duncan, don't use macro that much. I don't either. But let's just go over what gear we use for macro photography. Go ahead.
I have an old Nikon 60mm macro when I really need to get super close. But recently I acquired, not recently, a year ago, the 28-75, and this can get super close. I'm going to try to show you how close I can get with it. And frankly, since I've gotten this lens, I haven't used a macro for a while. This is, yeah, I'm focused on it right now, this close. I don't know if you can see, but I think the closest focusing distance is pretty insane.
Oh, wow.
So I'm on it right now, I'm focused on it. So yeah, so since I've had that, I haven't been needing my my macro as much. It doesn't get as close on the long end, on the 75mm, but still good enough for most of my work. So yeah, the 60mm macro or just my 28-75 Tamron.
Okay. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, if you don't shoot a lot of macro, I think that's good. But as we can see on the video that you showed us, you can get quite close to your subject. So yeah, working distance is close. Yeah, you a bit more and you touch with the front of
Exactly.
the lens. All right, so in terms of macro, I have been using the 80mm by Fuji, which I don't have unfortunately anymore because I wasn't using it enough. I made a video on this, but I have the MCX16, which is a macro ring by Fuji, which works with the contact, so you can still autofocus when you're shooting with this little guy. You can put any lens on this thing, so that's a good one. Or I received from Nisi, I made a video for this too, but this is basically you mount it on the front element of your lens, on the filter thread, and it does the same thing. So you can combine the two and you can get even more macro magnification, which comes really close to a macro lens. In addition, I have this little macro rail by Nisi, which has little increments, and you can get very close to your subject. I found it a little bit too heavy, so when you use it on the table and you turn, it will fall almost every time. But the whole bottom plate here is a mount for an Arca Swiss compatible tripod. So great little product.
You say autofocus, it works in autofocus.
Yes.
The cool thing with this one is I can actually use the autofocus while shooting macro, which is not always the case with, I know macro lenses, usually you don't want to use autofocus, but with this on a motorized slider, I can just go super slow and it will track focus to a certain degree. I can't really go as close as possible, but I can get some really awesome shots without needing to have someone, with full focus, right, or keep track of the focus.
That's great. And I'm sure if you crop a little bit, if you shoot in 4K, I guess 6 or 8K, you can crop a little bit and then be a little bit closer after in post when you're shooting like that.
Yeah.
So that's very useful.
I can shoot in 4K and I can also use the digital zoom, the 1.5 digital zoom. So yeah, I can get super close.
Nice.
Using this lens, yeah, for sure.
Neat. Okay.
Good call.
Cool. And now we're going to talk about another essential piece of gear that we use less and less, I feel, in this modern day and age because of all the IBIS that we find in the camera bodies. However, this is a crucial element when you do interviews, when you have to shoot something, you have to be stable, macro photography, landscape, and so forth. And this is tripods. I will start if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So in terms of tripods, what I use, so I have this guy, it's very generic tripod by a brand called Rolei. And it's a carbon fiber tripod. I highly advise, if you can't, get a carbon fiber tripod for photography. They're very sturdy, very light. You don't feel them if you put them on your bag, and they will last you forever. This one works great, very stable. I've used it also to shoot video. Not the best, doesn't have a fluid head, so it's great if you want to do an interview, you just want to keep it there, but otherwise that's for photography mainly. You can open the legs fully. This is another big advantage if you want to shoot something at a low angle, or if you want to change a little bit, vary the angles you're shooting at. This is great. You can use one of the legs as a monopod as well, so you can use it that way. The other tripod that I use is a Satchler, which I'm using right now on my Lumix GH5S. That's a little bit more bulky, a little bit more sturdy. It's the entry-level tripod, which entry-level with Satchler doesn't mean cheap, but it means Satchler. It still has the brand on it, and it's a great little tripod. Up to 4 kilos payload, which is enough for a cage, camera, full of focus, rail, and whatever you need to put on there.
How much are those two tripods that you just mentioned?
My Satchler tripod, I paid it 650 euro, and the Rolly, the one I just showed you, was something like 120 euro, something like that. Oh yeah, and let's not forget, nice. I'm using the light behind me, but this guy here is a little gorilla. Manfrotto. It's not a gorilla pod, but it's a little tiny. It was a gorilla. Okay. You have a little. You can just move it around. Very handy if you want to do some selfie work, or if you want to just record yourself for a vlog or things like that. So there you go. What do you use?
I'm going to start with the smallest one. The one that I bought, I never thought I would buy, is the Edelkrone Tilt Head. I forgot what it's called. They have such a weird names, but it's one of those flat ones that you can just use, and I use it for my mic because I record a lot of off audio, so I just put my Zoom H5 on it, and or I just can put my camera on it if I need to. So that's a smaller one, but it's 150 euro, super expensive. The next one, I've been in touch with Surrey, it's a Chinese brand, so they've been sending me a bunch of tripods, so I'm going to be biased, but the tripods are just great. The Traveler 7C is 130 euros, I think, or dollars. And it's a carbon fiber tripod, and it's the sturdiest one I've had so far because it is much thicker. The legs, when you extend the legs, usually carbon fiber ones, the cheap ones will bend very easily. They won't be as sturdy. This one, the second I opened it up, it just felt very, very sturdy. So I love it. And my friend Serge Ramilly, I think you know him or you know of him, was in my apartment, saw it, and I was like, Duncan, I'm going to buy this from you. So he stole it from me. So I had to get a new one because it was perfect. It's a 3-legged one, so you don't have to unscrew all the legs. It's quick to operate, super light, and yeah, it's a great tripod for the price. I think it's the best one for the price. And for video, I've got a massive one, Manfrotto 502 or something like that, 502. Can't really remember exactly which one it is. I bought it 10 years ago, used, and it's still doing fine. But I wish I had an in-between, just like the one you have, a much lighter one, because I think mine can hold up to 10 kilo also, which I never used for that much. Yeah, I think, I'm not sure, I can't be sure, but yeah, I would love to get an in-between one like the Satchel you have. But 650 euros, that's painful. But it's a good brand, and I think you have like a 5-year warranty or something on it. So
they gave me 7 years. I mean, there's the old saying, you get what you pay for. I think this still applies here. It's a bit like you have the Satchler brand stamp on it, and it means that it's going to last you, like you said, forever. 10 years used, there you go. Yeah. I mean, Manfrotto is the other brand that I was looking into. So yeah. So now another thing that I threw in a little bit last minute, but I think it's important. It's not so much a review on how it is and the price, because there's only one company that I know that makes this. I took it with me here. It's the Color Checker Passport. This one is the one for photos. Duncan has the one for videos, which is basically a very similar layout. I mean, it's a little bit different, but it does the same function. I made a video on this for Fuji cameras on how to use them, how to use the profile to calibrate your white balance and your colors. So if you guys want to have photos that look real with colors that look as they were when you took the photos, and to start with the white balance that is correct. This is a fantastic tool that I advise you to have in your bag. It's very small, it's passport size as the name indicates, and you can just throw it in your bag and forget about it.
And with this one for video, you can actually, what I'm doing right now, you'll be able to, if you're using DaVinci or other softwares, you can just, and if you're shooting with a flat profile like I'm using right now, S-Log3, you can just use the cursor, select this little area, and it will give you the right images. It will pretty much create a lot that will give you perfect, perfect image, pretty dope. And yeah, same thing like you said on the other side. I think yours is a bit different. Mine, I don't have the, I have just the white balance here and the focus checker, which I never use.
Yeah.
I don't know who used that, but you have the gray.
I have white and gray. That's right. For photography.
I wish I had gray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, another key element. This is not for photography, it's more for video, obviously, like as you will see. We're gonna talk about mics, microphones. So which mics do we have in our bag, the size of them, the price. So I'll go ahead and talk about what I use. So currently I'm using a Video Mic Pro Plus by Rode, which is an overhead mic. It's a run and gun mic, not fully shotgun, but it does the work just great. So that's what I use pretty much for everything when I have to go around on my cameras and so forth. The other microphone that I use is this one that I received from Holy Land. I made a video on this, a review. This is a little box which has, it boasts two little mics. These things are so light, you could lose them and not even know about it. It's as heavy as my AirPods basically. So you have two of those, which is great for interviews because you can put one on each of the talents, and they're both connected to this receiver right here, which you just plop on top of your camera and off you go. As soon as you put them in, like the AirPods, they recharge themselves, so you will not run out of juice anytime soon. There you go. What do you use?
I use, right now I'm using the Rode Wireless Go. That's what I use for my YouTube channel usually. And actually let us know in the comments below which mic you like better, his or mine. I also have like a Tascam. It's a 30 euro mic. And I use it for when I'm doing interviews, just have it there as a backup. And it actually works fantastic for 30 euros. I'm always shocked. And this little guy right here does two things. It has a recorder, so you can record internally, and it also does timecode. And timecode, just to put it quickly, it just synchronizes cameras and audio, and to give you the perfect timing so the audio doesn't shift if you're doing long recordings. But the biggest thing that this does, it records in 32-bit float, and this is pretty much the raw equivalent in audio. You just put it on the talent, record, and then afterwards in post with the software, you can just raise or lower the gain. That's it.
Well, there you go. Make sure you go and check the link and check the videos. I will post them as well, so you can have more information about this mic. Okay, great. So that brings us to another very, very important topic, and that is the software, the screen, and the computer, if those are separate. So software-wise, I currently use Final Cut Pro FCP. To me, it's the best editing software because I use Mac. So obviously they're compatible, they're made for each other, so they work great. It's a love story. I swapped from Premiere Pro. Premiere was a great software, still is a great software. However, you have to pay a monthly subscription or yearly, which to me was becoming a bit of a problem because you go high in the prices and it's never really yours, versus Final Cut Pro, which becomes your software for I think $300, and that's it. One-time shot and you're good to go. What about you? Use the same, you said?
Yeah, I also use iMovie Pro like you. Because it's that's what people used to call it. Yeah, I use it for my YouTube channel usually because I need something quick, and like you said, it works so well with Mac because it is made for Mac. And also use DaVinci Resolve. I use it because I got Blackmagic, so I had it for free. It's amazing for color correction. It's perfect. So yeah, I just go in between those two. I usually do my colors on DaVinci because I do hate you know, editing the colors on the Final Cut Pro X. Once you've tasted DaVinci and the nodes, it's hard to go back. And they did update it. They did upgrade it after so many years. You know, the function that you can do for color correction.
I like Final Cut Pro a lot for color correction. Actually, color grading in Final Cut Pro to me is so. It's actually intuitive, it works great, and it's simple. I haven't used DaVinci Resolve that much. I did a little bit. I didn't like the layout, but I didn't go too much in depth either because I'm mainly a pro photographer, so that's my main, you know, my main job and work. But I respect your choice. I mean, I'm sure it's great. You do more color grading than I do, I'm sure. So if you say that, I'll take your word for it. I'm sure it's a great great program.
I mean, it's the industry standard when it comes to color correction. That's why I'm saying that. And it is not easier for sure, but I found that the function that you have makes it easier to get the final look that I want.
Okay. One thing that I do use, I don't know if you have this or not, for Final Cut Pro, I use a lot Pixel Film Studio plugins. One of them was actually spoken about by Daniel Schiffer and other big YouTubers, which allows you to track your subject. So this is something really cool. And then I looked a bit more in depth and you have a lot of cool things.
But yeah, awesome plugin. I do need to get that plugin. I want to get that plugin that tracks, you know, that puts a name and tracks things in the video.
It's really simple. You'll see Pixel Film Studio. Check it out. Okay, cool.
Fine, I'll get it.
Fine. Yes. Okay, good. And then in terms of computer and screen, without going too much in depth, just the screen and computer that you use to edit.
I got the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Yeah, that's for my computer. And I do have the X-Rite color checker also to calibrate it, because even though they're great, I think they're a bit too punchy, too vivid, the colors, because whenever you export it, a bit too saturated. So I've got that, which brings everything down. And I've just got the ISO monitor, the CG2420, which is has a self-calibrating little module thingy that comes out. And they're just amazing. They're just fantastic.
Okay.
Voila.
Okay, good. Awesome. Well, there you go. I use my 16-inch MacBook Pro to edit pretty much everything. I would like to get my hands on one of those monitors one of these days, because monitors are crucial. And I forgot something. Oh yeah, it's not that important, but okay, let's just say, last but not least, the cameras.
Very important.
You know, just minor.
Camera is such a sore subject for me.
Minor detail, you know, gear doesn't matter, like they say a lot on YouTube lately. I do think that gear does matter, photographer does matter as well, but it's important to have the right camera for you for what you do. So we are gonna go over what we use for photos and what we use for videos, because nowadays, usually, very often, it's a separate type of camera. So I'll go right ahead and mention a surprising thing is that I use Fuji. So right here I have the X-T2 and the X-T3. I tested literally every single camera that Fuji made, from the most basic X-T30 that we have now up to the GFX 100S that came out a couple of weeks ago, almost. It's still a pre-production model. And my favorite cameras for everyday life and for work, professional work, is the APS-C X-T2s and X-T3s, not the X-T4 for photography. For no other reason than, honestly, for no other reason than not caring about the IBIS, not caring about stabilization that much. I never had any problem with my X-T2, so I don't see a need to upgrade necessarily. For video, that's a totally different subject, but for photography, these guys are just fantastic. No grip. I have grips on my shelf, not using them. I like the fact that it's small, it's compact. Fuji has always been great for that. It's very retro looking. You go down memory lane almost. Yeah, so that's for the bodies for photography. As far as video is concerned, okay. I use a GH5, GH5S, which I'm recording with right now. These are my main cameras for filming. I'm looking into going to Sony, which is a debate we're gonna have at some point in another video with Duncan, who's the Sony guy. And he would like to go to Fuji, as he told me, but that's for another day. But there you go. So that's my setup. That's what I use. And finally, I have a little Instax Mini 90, which I use rarely, but I do use it for weddings. I use it when I have a specific photo I want to take with a friend. It has that feel, that old grain, that something to it that is just great. You can put it on your wall, and those will not get lost in your iPhone or in your files of your computer. There you go. So that's my cameras. What do you use?
I use, first of all, I don't have as much money as you do to get two different brands for two different jobs. So I got the Sony a7R III. for many years I had the a7R III and a7 III, which is a 24 megapixel for a7 III and 42 megapixel for a7R III. Was really happy with them for photos, for wedding and landscape. And recently I switched. I also used to shoot all my interviews with them, but it's only 8-bit. The camera that Mr. Cris mentioned, I think they all shoot 10 bits at some point. At least the GH5, GH5S,
10-bit,
which is something that, yeah, exactly, 422, which is something that the A7R for $3,500 camera should have. But I bought recently the A7S III for $4,200. That was painful. I was debating between getting the D70, which is the new Canon Cine camera, but I had to switch everything. So I went with the Sony. I thought, you know what, I already own Sony. It's going to be perfect for my interviews. I'll have the 10-bit on one and maybe 8-bit on the other one, but I still, I shot with my friend's X-T4, kind of the same similar setup back in Paris. And the colors were just, the skin tone, because you don't mention that, the skin tone is amazing with Fuji. It is. They just nail it. I don't know why with the Sony, every single person has a hack on how to get the skin tone perfect on YouTube. And I'm like, why can't Sony just get it right?
Well, Fujifilm is known for
green tint.
I interrupt you right there. It's Fujifilm is known in history for the fact that they used to make films. Like Fujifilm is actually the film that used to be used to take photos and to film. So they're very good at matching the colors, and they have a science to it that just like you said, the skin tones are great. It's true. One thing that I want to mention before we end with this topic of the cameras is the fact that the reason I have a GH5S, which doesn't have IBIS, it's not stabilized, is because it has a dual native ISO of 400 and 2500. Currently I'm shooting at 2500 ISO, for example, and it's the native ISO, so you're not going to have any noise, any grain or anything disturbing on it. Same thing for the A7S III, which has a 12 megapixel sensor. This one is a 10 megapixel sensor. Having less megapixels means that you have pixels that are bigger, that can capture more light, and that will have less noise. So those cameras are great if you have to shoot in low light. You're gonna have the ISO can go higher. I guess for me, that's the reason why I went for this. That's the reason why I would go for the A7S III mainly, because of the low light and the ISO.
Mm-hmm. And you don't think that the Fuji with a bigger sensor is better in low light than the
I don't think so.
H5S?
The reason why is because the GFX, I tried it in low light. The problem with the GFX, the 50R, for example, that Serge Romelli uses, is that it's not stabilized, first of all. So you move a little bit, and you have a blurry image. Yeah. They improved this with the GFX 100 and 100S. They are stabilized. However, you have 102 megapixels. So yes, your sensor is bigger, but you do have like 4 times the pixels of this guy. 4 times. Yeah. So there you go. It's basically the same. Makes the difference.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Fair enough.
There you go.
Fair enough. I also use the Blackmagic, just FYI, Blackmagic Pocket, Cinema Pocket 4K. I don't use it as much though. I do like the colors out of it. I do need to use it more or sell it, but that's one I have, which has I hear the same sensor as the GH5S. It's a dual native.
It does. Yep.
And
that's right.
it's also, yeah, it's very decent for low light as well.
Okay, good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this this little interview collaboration style of video with Duncan. I hope we'll be able to meet at some point soon, because right now he's in South Africa, I'm in Switzerland, so it's a little bit of a stretch. But I hope we'll be able to do some testings of products, do maybe some shorts or something. Create a little bit with all this gear we have. Don't hesitate to leave comments in the comment section below. Let us know what you guys use, if you use some part of what we use or not, and I would be glad to know what you guys use.
Thanks for watching, guys. Thank you, Chris, for this little video. Awesome. Yeah, go and subscribe to his channel, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
There you go. Cheers.